What if the key to solving a 40-year-old cold case wasn't in some dusty police file, but in your cousin's online family tree? So today, we're going to get into how one investigation didn't just catch a notorious killer. It basically opened a Pandora's box of questions about the secrets hidden in all of our DNA. For decades, there was this phantom haunting California. A predator with so many different names and a reign of terror so wide, it just left this permanent scar on the state. By 2018, years after he went silent, the trail was completely ice cold. I mean, every traditional tool in the book had failed. Police actually had the killer's DNA, but he was a ghost in the system. It didn't match anyone in any criminal database. It really seemed like this case was destined to become one of those permanent, terrifying mysteries. The breakthrough? Well, it came from a place investigators had never even thought to look before. Public genealogy websites. Yeah, the exact same sites that people use to build their family trees. And this one idea didn't just solve a case, it kickstarted a revolution in criminal justice. Okay, so first, to really understand why this breakthrough was such a massive deal, you have to appreciate the sheer scale of the terror and why this case was considered, completely unsolvable for so long. Look at these numbers. They represent more than a dozen murders, but the true scope of the horror was even larger, including over 50 rapes. From 1974 to 1986, one guy, a predator with many names, was responsible for all of it. He was meticulous, he was cruel, and for decades, he was completely invisible. And then, after his final murder in 1986, he just stopped. Poof. He vanished. For 32 years, there was nothing but silence. It left victims' families totally without answers and an entire state with this lingering, awful fear. And here's exactly why it was a dead end. Investigators had the killer's DNA, but when they ran it through CODIS, that's the FBI's big criminal database, they found nothing. Zero. And the reason was simple. The killer had never been arrested for another crime. His DNA just wasn't in the system. So, if the official databases were useless, how in the world did they finally find him? This is where the investigation took a radical leap, right out of the police lab and into the public domain. Investigators turned to this brand new technique called investigative genetic genealogy. And the idea? It was simple but absolutely brilliant. If the killer isn't in a criminal database, maybe one of his relatives is in a public ancestry database. But this technique isn't magic. It's incredibly painstaking detective work. After they uploaded the killer's profile to a public site called GED Match, they didn't find the killer. They found his third and fourth cousins. From there, genealogists had to work backwards, building this massive family tree to find a common ancestor, and then build it forwards again, through generations, to finally pinpoint just one possible suspect. And that one person was Joseph James D'Angelo. In a really chilling twist, he was a former police officer. To confirm their lead, investigators secretly collected his throwaway DNA from his car door handle. It was a perfect match. The ghost finally had a name. But this incredible victory for justice also blew open a Pandora's box of ethical questions, questions that we are all now a part of. On one side of this, the argument is crystal clear. This is a moral imperative. Law enforcement and victims' families see a tool that can finally bring closure to the most horrific cold cases and take dangerous criminals off the streets. For them, the benefit to public safety is just undeniable. But on the other side of the scale, privacy advocates see this as a really dangerous slippery slope. They argue that this technique turns millions of innocent people who just wanted to build a family tree into unwitting genetic informants against their own relatives. It basically creates a national DNA database without anyone's consent. I mean, think about it this way. Your choice to explore your own family history could lead law enforcement to a third cousin you've never even met. It forces this profound question on all of us. Where does your personal genetic privacy end and your entire family's begin? This pushes right up against the Fourth Amendment's protection from unreasonable searches. If police use your cousin's DNA to find you, have they essentially performed a search on you without a warrant? The courts are only now beginning to grapple with all this. You see, the Golden State Killer case wasn't just the end of a manhunt. It was the start of a completely new era in society's relationship with technology, privacy, and justice. And this new reality is playing out very differently around the world. The US has rapidly embraced this technology, but in Europe, with its really strict GDPR privacy laws, adoption has been far, far more cautious. It highlights this fundamental difference in how societies weigh public safety against individual privacy.
And the impact has been just staggering. Since 2018, investigative genetic genealogy has been used to solve hundreds of cold cases, giving names back to unidentified victims and bringing justice to families who had completely lost all hope. And that leaves us here. The hunt for the Golden State Killer forced a trade-off, solving an undeniable evil by creating a powerful new form of surveillance. As this technology becomes more common, the question it poses isn't theoretical anymore. It's a choice that, whether we realize it or not, we are all now making.